In 1845, two Royal Navy ships leave England in an attempt to finally discover a navigable passage through the Arctic. They are the most technologically advanced ships of their time, but after entering the Arctic labyrinth, both ships vanish. Just before they disappear, European whalers entering the Arctic notice them. 4 years after their disappearance, an Inuit man tells a search party that he met the captain of one of the ships. The Inuit man says the captain pointed south, saying they needed to return home, but they could barely walk the man, then say a creature called a tanbak, which eats anything with legs, is following them. The captain had one message for anyone searching for them. There is no way through the Arctic, and they should return, as both ships are gone. The man shows the captain's buttons as proof of his story. So what happens to the ships? To answer that question, we must go back 4 years, when the ships are cruising peacefully through the Arctic. The ship HMS Terror is led by Captain Francis, and HMS Erebus is led by Commander John, who is also the expedition leader, is on his way despite some navigational challenges. One evening, John and Commander James, the first officer of Erebus, join Francis aboard the Terror for dinner. During the meal, a young sailor suddenly coughs up blood, and the crew rushes to help. In the morning, he is taken back to Erebus, but later that day, the ship is struck by ice, causing one crew member to fall to his death. That night, the young sailor's condition worsens. He claims to see a figure no one else can see and dies. Suddenly, with no visible injuries, the assistant doctor, Harry, reports this to the main doctor, but it is dismissed as a hallucination before death. Next, Erebus faces trouble after yesterday's encounter with the ice that damaged its propeller. Rookie, a young and nervous diver, is chosen to inspect and clear the obstruction as he works beneath the freezing waters, discovers the lifeless body of a drowned sailor. Panicking, he signals to be pulled up and is brought back to the surface. Shaken, he reports that the propeller damage is cleared, but keeps his discovery to himself. Meanwhile, the doctors complete the autopsy on the deceased sailor, but find no cause of death. After that, John summons Francis and his officers from the Terror to discuss how to continue the journey. Erebus can only operate at half power, which might leave them stranded during the Arctic winter. Francis warns they are not dealing with typical ice floes, but a massive ice field compounded by the coldest Arctic winter he has observed. He proposes transferring Erebus's fuel to the Terror and consolidating resources. However, John refuses to abandon either ship, confident they can break through. JN decides that the Terror will lead, breaking the heavy ice, while Erebus follows later. The ships become trapped in an impenetrable ice field for 6 days. The crew struggle to free themselves, but the ice holds firm despite many attempts to break it. John eventually realizes there is no way out and orders preparations for the long winter ahead. After 8 months, the engines have been maintained throughout winter and are ready to restart as soon as the ice begins to melt. To scout a navigable route, JN orders 3 teams of sailors to venture into the frozen landscape in each direction. Each team, led by experienced members, sets off in different directions, dragging heavy lifeboats across the ice. After 3 days of travel, one of the search parties encounters an imposing ice wall, spotting a distant pile of stones. Graham, the first lieutenant of HMS Erebus, leads the group toward it. They discover it is a which Graham speculates may have been left by the Inuit. When the team returns to their lifeboats, they find their supplies overturned and destroyed. The destruction is so severe that neither humans nor polar bears seem capable of causing it. That night, a violent thunderstorm erupts near the ships. Meanwhile, Graham and a companion return to camp, reporting no significant discoveries. Soon after, the group hears movement on the ice. Assuming it is a polar bear, they grab their weapons and fire at a shadowy figure. Upon investigation, they discover they've shot an Inuit elder. A woman appears and begins speaking in a language they don't understand. Moments later, a massive creature with white fur attacks, killing Graham before vanishing into the storm. Next, the wounded Inuit is taken aboard Erebus, but succumbs to his injuries. Harry reports finding massive footprints near the scene where Graham disappeared with no trace of Graham's body. He also reveals that the elder's tongue had been cut out, though he can't explain why. Francis, who happens to speak the Inuit language from his previous expeditions, talks to the woman. She warns Francis and the crew to leave the area immediately, or they will vanish. Next, the Inuit woman sets up camp near the fleet rather than leaving the area entirely. John announces a funeral for Graham, vowing to capture the creature responsible for his death. Then Francis proposes sending a rescue team south to seek help, estimating a 3-month journey to the nearest British outpost, but JN refuses. A few days later, John visits the soldiers tasked with hunting the creature. Soon the creature attacks, killing one soldier instantly. John panics and flees, but the creature grabs him, dragging him toward the ice hole where the elder's body was disposed of. The crew arrives too late, finding only John's severed leg and a trail of footprints leading into the ice. With John gone, Francis assumes command of the expedition and decides to officially implement the rescue plan. However, he plans to stay with the fleet to maintain order, assigning others too. Leading the rescue team during John's funeral, the Inuit woman is in her igloo when she hears a growl outside. Stepping out cautiously, she finds a seal carcass left before her by the mysterious creature. It seems the being is not an ordinary predator, hungry for blood, but an intelligent creature possibly helping the Inuit. Next aboard the Erebus, Harry examines photos of victims of the recent attacks. He notes claw-like wounds that do not resemble any known predator. Then a scream is heard on deck, and Francis rushes out to find a soldier grievously injured, his skull cap torn off in an attack from the side of the ship. Another crew member reports a man taken by the creature, his cries echoing on the ice. Then Francis leads a search party and recovers the body of the missing man. But as they turn back, the creature strikes again, killing a young crewman accompanying Francis. Meanwhile, a crew member named Hickey spots the Inuit woman interacting with the creature without authorization. He and 2 others capture her and bring her aboard. She is accused of communicating with the beast and plotting to kill them. Hickey claims the creature is 3 times the size of a polar bear. However, Francis does not tolerate insubordination or disrespect. He sentences the men to lashes for abandoning their posts and acting without orders. In the morning, James brings the Inuit woman aboard the Erebus, instructing the medical officer to ensure she is treated well. Harry takes it upon himself to offer her food, attempting to build trust and learn her language, but the attacks continue. Leaving multiple bodies for research, the results are shocking. The bodies show signs of being composed of parts from 2 different creatures, with sharp, claw-like cuts ruling out any human or polar bear. Reports indicate the creature has been circling, HMS Terror displaying intelligence. Beyond any known animal, next Harry takes the Inuit woman to Terror for further investigation into her language. After another month, Francis grows impatient and meets with his officers, Thomas and Edward, along with the Inuit woman. Francis demands to know about the creature, and the woman calls it Tanbach, meaning an evil spirit. She explains that the creature no longer serves anyone. When Francis demands to know how to kill it, she offers no direct answer, appearing as fearful as the crew. Francis, frustrated, threatens to throw her off the ship if she refuses to cooperate. The woman responds calmly, saying that even if she could help, Francis wouldn't accept it because he only wishes to die with the creature. After a while, Thomas heads to the deck to inspect the ice, but is suddenly attacked by the creature. Thomas sends his men to prepare for an attack while he lures the creature to a high position. The creature scratches his leg with its large claws. Thomas then lights the creature with fire so the crew on the ground can see it better. Once they have their aim, the crew fires at the creature, wounding it and causing it to fall to the ice below. But when they search for it, they only find trails of blood leading away as the creature roars in the distance. Amidst the chaos, the woman disappears. The crew takes Thomas inside only to realize they must amputate his leg to save him. Later, Francis calls his officers and reveals that he is growing ill. He appoints Edward to lead Terror and James to oversee the entire expedition. After a few weeks, the crew's condition stabilizes with no attacks from the creature since it was shot. Meanwhile, in the icy wilderness, the Inuit woman who had previously escaped struggles to survive alone. She builds an altar using a seal carcass and begins a ritual when she senses the creature approaching. She pleads for it to accept her as a replacement for her deceased father. She explains that the creature cannot go without a shaman for long. Finally, she uses a knife to cut out her tongue, becoming tongueless like her father. Meanwhile, James plans to abandon both ships and lead the expedition on foot as food and resources are running out. Before announcing his plan, he organizes a carnival to celebrate the first rising of the sun, and everyone pretends. Meanwhile, Harry discovers that the canned food they are consuming is affecting everyone's mental health as it is poisoned with lead. He informs the main doctor, Stephen, who is clearly affected as well. Harry wants to tell the captains about the canned foods, but Stephen dismisses Harry's concerns, saying he will think about it next. At the ceremony, Francis learns about James's plan and addresses the entire crew, urging them to prepare for the journey on foot. While the group listens intently, Stephen loses control, spilling alcohol everywhere and sealing off the exits. Meanwhile, the Inuit girl, now without her tongue, arrives at the camp seeking help from the doctor. As Francis continues his speech, she reaches the camp, and Harry begins to assist her at the same time. Stephen sets fire to the gathering and ignites himself as well. The fire spreads rapidly, claiming numerous lives. Some survivors manage to escape the tent, but many remain trapped inside. A man outside attempts to cut open the tent, but accidentally stabs the medical assistant in the process. Despite the accident, he succeeds in saving them. The devastating fire kills both chief medical officers, leaving only Harry alive, burdening him with treating the injured. After this tragedy, the crew prepares to leave on foot, leaving a few behind on the ship in case the ice melts. They begin their journey, but along the way, Hickey forms his own group of soldiers and sailors, believing the food supply is insufficient for everyone. To make matters worse, Hickey kills one of the commanding lieutenants after discovering local Inuit people in the area, and kills them too when his mutiny is discovered. Francis acts cautiously to capture Hickey without his men acting to defend him. Next, Hickey is captured and sentenced to death. Just as he is about to be hanged, the creature attacks, killing more crew members. Hickey uses the chaos to escape kidnapping Harry, the only remaining doctor. The soldiers fire a cannon at the creature, but fail to injure it enough to stop it. A sergeant watches as the creature takes the soul of a soldier, turning it into a spiritually enraged beast after the chaos. Francis decides to burn the dead bodies because the crew lacks the time and energy to bury them. Once the bodies are burned, the crew continues their journey, pulling a boat filled with supplies. Suddenly, James collapses and must be carried on the boat with the other sick crew members. Meanwhile, in Hickey's group, one of their men falls ill. After Harry examines him, he tells Hickey the man's death is imminent. In response, Hickey kills the man on the spot, showing there is no tolerance for weakness. Next, the team sets up camp to rest and discuss their dwindling food supply. Edward suggests leaving the sick behind and returning for them later if supplies are found. But Francis refuses, insisting they will not abandon anyone and will survive as a team. Meanwhile, the Inuit girl finds her settlement, where the elders tell her the creature is now her responsibility as the new shaman. Back in Francis's camp, James's condition worsens, and he begs Francis to end his suffering. Reluctantly, Francis gives him poison, allowing him to die peacefully in the morning. They bury James, and scouts inform Francis that the creature is following them. Next, Thomas volunteers to distract the creature and create a diversion, though Francis objects. Thomas reminds him that with only one leg, he is no longer useful to the crew. Thomas sets off in another direction. After a few days, he reaches the shore and discovers the snow is melting. He documents his findings, hoping they will help the others survive. Next, Hickey and his team, now running out of food, resort to eating deceased crew. Members later, the sergeant who saw the creature take the soul of a soldier describes a horrifying experience, exping that the creature is not hunting them just for food. A few days later, one of Francis's scouts is revealed to be a spy for Hickey and leads Francis's group into a trap. Hickey's men ambush them, killing one of Francis's men and capturing the rest. Meanwhile, Thomas, who has forks strapped all over his body, is found by the creature and waits for his inevitable fate back at the camp. Edward calls a meeting to plan a rescue for Francis and punish the mutineers. However, the crew has already voted to continue moving south, leaving the sick behind to die at Hickey's camp. Harry tends to Francis's wound and reveals that one of their men has been killed and eaten. Together, they assess Hickey's numbers and weapons. Next, Harry warns Francis to eat only the tough skin from the foot if forced to consume human flesh at Hickey's camp. Francis confronts Hickey, who reveals his plan to capture the creature Tanbach. Later, Harry poisons himself, and the next morning, Hickey's group unknowingly eats his body, forcing Francis to join under threat. Remembering Harry's advice, Francis eats a piece of flesh from Harry's foot. After this, Hickey forces the crew to pull a lifeboat. Chaining Francis and his allies, he reveals he has no intention of returning to England. Those who eat the doctor's flesh begin to show signs of poisoning, and Francis realizes Harry sacrificed himself to stop Hickey. Hickey then admits he is an imposter who killed the real Hickey to join the expedition and start a new life. His plan ultimately fails, leaving him stranded in the Arctic for years. Later, Hickey lures the creature, which kills the crew members one by one. Desperate, Hickey tries to bond with the creature like the Inuit girl did. He cuts out his tongue and offers it to the creature. However, the creature instantly kills him. It then turns to attack Francis, but the injuries it sustained in the poison people it consumed finally bring it down. The creature dies. The Inuit girl finds Francis alive and frees him by cutting off his hand. On their way back, they pass Hickey's camp in the remains of the Dr. Harry. After a few days, Francis recovers and searches for Edward and any other survivors. He finds the group. Dead with Edward barely alive, after a brief reunion, Edward succumbs to his injuries, marking the tragic end of the expedition with Francis as the sole survivor. Francis joins the Inuit tribe and learns the woman's name, Silna. The tribe mourns the death of the Tanbach, and it is revealed that Silna is the new shaman. Must leave the tribe, Francis tries to follow her, but the elders do not allow it. Back in England, a naval officer prepares to leave on a rescue mission for HMS Terror in HMS Erebus 4 years after the expedition's departure. An Inuit man informs the elders that 2 strangers have arrived. Francis realizes it is the rescue team. The elder recounts Francis's story to the naval officer as Francis had instructed